But Rauerbrazel, eventually people started complaining about, you know, the erotic stuff. So somebody who was in Rauerbrazel started, they started complaining about the too much eroticism and too much militarism. So he started a pair of other fanzine. I don't remember the name of the military one, but it eventually, a lot of the artists in it became the first artists in Furlough, the comic book.
Yes.
It kind of grew out of that. And the erotic one was called Q.
The other one was called Squab.
Squab, that's right. Squab eventually became sort of the source that Furlough drew on.
And those were out of Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like fans of Jerry Collins started those.
Mitch Hero in that crowd?
This was before Mitch. This was, God, I can't remember the guy's name, Mike something. But Mitch eventually showed up in Q. And several other people, you know. And people who were in Rauerbrazel would also put stuff in Q and Squab. They would just put stuff that was specific to those genres in Q and Squab. And it was kind of cool. And there have been numerous fanzines over the years that have come and gone, some story-based, some art-based, and we have collections of all of them. Before we get scooted out the door here, I want to mention real quick that it occurred to me a couple of years ago that there's an awful lot of this history out there that is either getting buried under the drama noise or just isn't being discussed. So I begged and whined on this guy and eventually convinced him. So we have started a podcast. It's called Two Old Furry Fans. And we've finished one episode. It's going to be up on our Facebook page pretty quick here. And fairly regularly we're going to be going on after that. We're going to talk about what we've been through in more detail, all of this stuff. And then also inviting some, I'll try to get Steve Galacci and Taro Wayne and some other people on there to discuss their experiences with early furry fandom and where it's been over the past 25 years.
Will you put this on YouTube?
Yes, it will also.
No, but it's going to be on your Facebook page. Is called Two Old Furry Fans.
No, it's
SoCal Furry.
It probably will go up on SoCal first, but there's also there's the Gray Muzzles. At the moment, it's going up on Gray Muzzles.
Okay.
Yeah, I should plug that because it's a very, very active furry thing. If you're at all interested in places where furry fandom has been, the Facebook/Gray Muzzles.
We put this on the Prince and Skill Care YouTube page?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And a number of things. And we're probably going to put this on the Prince and Skill Care YouTube page.
Just let me know.
So let's quickly go around and see if we got other. Yes, sir.
Very quick show of hands question for personal calibration. We talked about a fair bit about the sort of the birth of the West Coast fandom. Show of hands, does anybody know the Philadelphia Animation Society, Pennsylvania Animation Society? So while these guys were spinning up on the West Coast, quietly in the back of this anime fan group that met in Philadelphia once a month, Ken Sample and Deal Whitley and, oh God, the guy who started, what were the two small zines? I'm blanking on his name, I had it just the other day. But these guys were spinning up the East Coast side of the fandom, essentially at the same time that Mark and Rod were spinning up the West Coast side of the fandom. Thank you, Scott. Yeah, Scott and Dan Austin, was it, I think?
Scott Alston, Major Matt Mason were having big furry parties at PhilCon. But for some reason, they never decided to do a convention. And what happened was there was a guy, may have been Chip Unicorn, may have been somebody else. I'm trying to do the research and find out because the information's been lost off the web for years. Started something called Albany Anthrocon. And nothing to do whatsoever with the current Anthrocon.
And wonder of wonders, he financed it out of his own pocket.
It was a Fermi that he would rent a hall for like a weekend. And I guess they probably had dealers and maybe some costumes and things like that. And eventually, he was convinced to turn it into an actual hotel convention in 1997. Whereupon the people running the convention with him basically generated huge hotel bills, giving rooms to a bunch of people, and he ended up having to refinance his house to pay for it. like I did when we had somebody, basically, take away $10,000 from my convention one year.
Conference 10, and that was the
No, that was
that comic book shop.
No, that was 9.
Conference 9.
Yeah.
9.
Yeah, that's something you got to be careful with. You're dealing with money when you're in the convention. Happened recently to a Brony convention in Las Vegas. They lost a whole bunch of money because someone just stole it. You can't trust people with money. You have to always have people watching the people who are watching the people who are watching the money. You can't just trust a person. We trusted a guy to handle all of our credit card sales from like conference 4 to conference 9. Not a problem. 9, we took the money and ran.
Yeah, you refinanced the house to
To
pay
pay
the
off the
artist
artists.
off.
The artists. So, there's good and there's bad. I wore this T-shirt specifically. This is our conference-based T-shirt, and very popular. Sidney Fisher is a character I created for Pen Sample originally for role-playing. She became the unofficial mascot of conference.
There she is too.
Yeah. And turn around. This is we were doing it's supposed to be a concert T-shirt. Like it gets sometimes at concerts. And on the back it has her other performances. In other words, other conventions. You'll notice it stops at 97, which is when Conference 8 was. That was the year of the first Anthrocon. So scientific conventions have gone on for a long time before there was an Anthrocon. And the reason it was called Anthrocon, sadly, is because a few people decided that the name furry was bad, had bad connotations. So they had to figure out a way that you could still be a fan of all that same stuff and not be called a furry.
Was that around the same time the fur movement?
Yes.
It was
Around the same time, yeah. So essentially what happened is in that East Coast group, one of the very influential people was Lisa Sample, Sample's wife. And she was incredibly popular as an artist and gamer, and one of the first very obvious female furry fans back when everybody thought furry fans were just like comic fans, and they were 30 years old, had glasses, and lived in their parents' basement. And she
Except on the West Coast
said,
where we don't have basements.
She basically said very loudly on some East Coast forums that, to hell with this furry anthro stuff. We're all furries. And everybody went, yeah, okay. So, look around. How many conventions have the name furry in them? Quite a few. As a matter of fact, even for a long time, the term furrence became kind of a tradition in furry conventions. Originally, it was Conference, then there was Conference East, Krishna's convention, which predated Anthrocon. Then there was Eurofurrence, which is still going on. And even a couple of years, there was Russfurrence, Russian furry convention.
Actually, that's still good.
Might still be.
It is still going to stand from the few hundred people.
Speaking of the cons with no fur in the name of furry, what about Antheria? How did they happen?
Antheria was basically created so that there could be a furry convention on the East Coast, on the West Coast, that did not involve us. And essentially it was Simon Riccolby and To the Ranting Griffin, what's his name?
Jiva.
What?
Jiva, his friend. Yeah. I forget his name.
Yeah, but also Rainhopper.
Rainhopper Griffin.
Yeah, and there was a lot of problems between Rain. He ran the Califer the year before, and there were a lot of problems and drama.
He was co-chair.
Yeah,
because
he was co-chair.
Z is chairman of the current Califer, and she did the same mistake that Ryan and I made. We tried to do too much. And we keep telling her, you have to back off. You've got to, you've got to delegate people, get other people to help you. So she's been picking people to be co-chairs, and a couple of them haven't worked out. And what happened was apparently Simon funded Antheria, and it basically was a party con. basically didn't have any programming. It was right at Redondo Beach. They rented one of those party boats, and they would go out and have like a cocktail party on the water. Certain people would buy tickets to go on it, and it was all about Simon and doing their stand-up routines and things like that. Interestingly enough, their convention was hit by a spoiler just like ours was.
Really?
And they lost their first hotel.
I didn't know.
Yeah, very close to the.
Very close to the convention.
Yeah.
Oh, right, I do remember that.
Whoa, nice. Oh, wow. We're coming to the end here, so are there any more questions from the floor? Hold your hand up right there in the back.
What hotel was offering zero in?
The Holiday Inn
Bristol Plaza.
Holiday Inn Bristol
Called
Plaza at right next to South Coast Plaza.
It's actually Walden himself. Wow. Glad to see you.
Yes. Well, someone just got him down at the local secondhand shop, so in other words, it was Walden Pond.
Well, I appreciate your concern.
Any others?
Yeah, just one here. There's this recent one called the UnthroCon. How are they able to get that name?
I have no idea. I wasn't even familiar with UnthroCon until I saw a flyer earlier in this convention. So I'm researching it.
UnthroCon is based on, because it's a Utah con, so they're based off the land name of the Utah Raptor.
There's kind of a rolling understanding among conventions that anybody can pun anything. That goes back to the tradition of science fiction conventions. There's been some real groaners for convention names over the years, and some were puns of other people's convention names. So it's just,
That's why it's called
multi-level puns.
Because science fiction conventions always put con, Kubla Khan,